Hello, everybody. This is our lesson on life after death in this subject, which is philosophy of religion in international business management. So, in this question about life after death, first we have to find out what death is, okay, to know what it is that we transition from, right? So, it's a former state and you're transitioning into death. So, what is that death? Before we can say what death is, again, then the other step is that we have to know what life is. For death is actually the absence of life. So, we were talking about evil in the previous lesson, and we said that evil is the absence of something, some good that is supposed to be there. In a certain sense, we are looking at death as something bad because it is the loss of life, right? So death is evil because it is the loss of something very good. And that very good thing that is lost with death is life. Okay, so what are the signs of life? How do you know that something is living? Well, that thing is has self-movement. It moves by itself. I mean, it's not pushed by anything. It starts moving by itself. It also has self-repair. So organisms tend towards the hegemony of health. They want to be healthy, right? So when something goes unbalanced in their physiology, that all the mechanisms inside, the biological mechanisms inside, try to bring it back to the balanced side. So the balanced side is health, and unbalanced, that is sickness, illness. Okay, so living things tend towards health. They repair themselves, and then self-reproduction. So they make more copies of themselves. That is, these are the three signs of life. Okay, so that life is a self movement, like some type of energy that's coming, a principle that makes things move and repair itself and multiply itself. Now, the question is, does life come from the mere correct organization of material things? If you are looking at that picture there, I don't know if you recognize that, but it comes from a novel, and that man on the left is actually something that was put together from dead parts. Okay, his name is, well, the doctor's name is Frankenstein. Okay, or Frankenstein, whatever. Anyway, he wanted to bring back dead parts into life, and what he did was he started getting parts from the cemetery. So he got this body, and of course he needed a brain, so he got someone who died recently. He got his brain, put it inside the head of that dead body, and then many other parts that he was trying to compose together so that he can complete all the organs of this creature. And then he started getting electricity from lightning, and by some well, electric charge or whatever, that thing started to become alive, right? So Frankenstein's monster, that is what happened. But you don't know whether it's a real person or not. Okay, so can that happen? Can you put together body parts and then it starts to become alive, right? Can you do that all by yourself, just by putting parts together? Is it organization? Is life only organization and not something else? So is life like the harmonious tune of a harp? So if life is an organization, it's like a guitar or a harp like this one that you find in the picture. If you put the strings and the pieces of wood together in the correct way, you will have music, right? So is life like music, good tune, good sounds that comes from the correct putting together of the parts of the harp? Okay, so is it like that when you put together parts of the body in a correct way, will it become alive all by itself? And Plato actually said no. If you put together parts of a body, you will never find a correct way of putting it in such a way that automatically it becomes alive. Harps can be more attuned. So he says the comparison with the harp is wrong. Okay, the living body is not a harp. Harps can be more attuned or less attuned. You're saying that the soul is like music? Well, no, because if a harp can be more in tune or not in tune. But if you say, oh, that's the same as the soul, therefore, does it mean that some people are more human than others? Because some harps are more attuned and or less attuned than others, right? So if you say that some human beings are more organized or less organized, so are they more human than the other human beings, right? So in principle, no, right? All human beings are the same. We have the same nature. He also said, Plato also said, there could be good men and there could be bad men, but all of them are equally human. A harp is never in tune. That is never in tune cannot be called a harp at all, right? So whether good or bad, they're men, okay? They're living beings. But a harp that is out of tune constantly can never be called a harp. It's useless. If the body creates the soul, so compare it with the body. What happens is that if you talk about organization, if it's a matter of organization, life is a matter of organization, then it is the body that creates the soul because the harp is the one that creates the music, right? Harp plays the music. So if you put body parts together, does it create life? It seems not. Then the soul should be always under the influence of the body if that's the case, right? But we find that it's the soul that commands it. It's the soul, that principle, that thing that makes the organism alive. It's something different. It's not the mere organization of the body parts. Therefore, the life principle, the soul, must have an existence that is different from the body. It's something added to the body. Okay? It's just like blindness is not added to the body. But what happened in blindness is that you have taken away sight. Okay, this one is different. You added the soul to the body. So you added life. When you added the soul, you added life to the body. Because the body itself cannot produce life. The soul exists and it is what gives life to the body. And therefore, so we already said what life is. It's when something is animated. Animated comes from the Latin word anima, and anima in Latin means soul. So when you say something is animated, it's ensouled. It has a soul. It's alive. Okay. So death is one of the greatest mysteries of human existence. For the modern secularized mind, it is the ultimate and most definitive disaster that could ever occur to a human being. Death, you disappear. And if you don't believe in the soul, if you don't believe in spirit, then it's a complete disappearance. Annihilation, that's what they say. You're gone. That's it. There's nothing else. No more story after that. Okay, so the modern secularized mind, or the atheist, thinks that way. That's why some people go crazy when they become atheist, right? Believers receive death as inevitable and as a door to another type of life. Now, there are those who believe that after this life, when you die, when your soul leaves your body, you enter into another type of life. You're still alive. Okay. People usually face death with fear, confusion, or hope. Death is the loss of life. Therefore, death is when the soul leaves the body. Right? Okay. Now, the soul left the body. It's just like Plato. In his dialogue, he said, okay, the soul is there and it left the body. But when it is no longer in the body, what happens to it? Does it disappear? Right? Like smoke. Smoke comes out of the cigarette And then it looks like it's something while it's floating there in the air, but little by little it disappears into the general atmosphere, right? So is the soul like that? Is the soul like smoke? Comes out and you can see it a little bit, but eventually it disappears. Or is it immortal? Does it always exist? Okay, does it continue to live after death? Does the soul live forever? If the soul has some activity that is independent of the body, this is what is said by Thomas Aquinas, and I think he got it from Plato as well. If the soul has some activity that is independent of the body, then the soul has an existence that is different from the body. Okay, what does that mean in simple terms? If the soul can do something without the body, it must be something that exists by itself because it can do something without the body, right? Still active, it is still active even without the body. So if it can do that, if it can do something like that, then it must exist even after it has left the body. Otherwise, it will die together with the body. So does it have any activity that is independent of the body? Okay, so some philosophers say, like Descartes, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. And other philosophers have said, and that's it. Thinking, if the soul can think outside the body, then it exists by itself. And quite a number of philosophers think that way. Thinking is something that we do that is not fully dependent on the body. It's quite independent of the body. Some people say that thought is independent of the body. And therefore, if that is true, if that is correct, then the soul exists even after the body disappears. If the soul can think, is it necessarily immortal? An analysis. The body is the part that keeps on changing. This is also from Plato. It is material. Universal thought, knowledge of truth, beauty, and goodness is unchanging. Okay, these types of ideas, they're not material. Truth, beauty, and goodness. Now, what is the one that knows truth, beauty, and goodness? Is it the body that knows truth, beauty, and goodness? Or is it the soul? Is it the soul that knows truth, beauty, and goodness? The soul, right? Because the soul is the one that's thinking. What is unchanging is eternal, therefore the soul is eternal. So if the soul is the one that can know these universal truths, universal thought, then it itself, the soul itself, should be universal and unchanging. That's what Plato says. And if the soul is universal and unchanging, like these ideas, therefore the soul is eternal. It's immortal. It's still alive after we die. Okay, now we say that it's still alive even after we leave the body. So, but what is life after death? What happens to us after death? Socrates, in the dialogue of Plato entitled Phaedo, was able to bring up all these proofs. So these are philosophical proofs proving that the soul still exists after we die. Okay, but what Socrates could not explain, could not fully explain through philosophy, what does it do after it dies? And that's when we need religion, because philosophy does not tell us. Science and philosophy does not tell us what the soul does after it dies. So Socrates was saying in that dialogue in Phaedo, I heard a story and it seems to be true because it fits very well with all the philosophical discoveries that he made, that the soul goes to this place. Okay, so he was talking about life after death. There is something that the soul still does after death, and I don't know if fortunately or unfortunately, but it's religion. That's why religion is so important to man, right? Because nothing else can explain what's going to happen to us after we die. Well, we could say we're going to turn into energy, etc., etc. But that energy is not us. It's some lifeless thing there, just moving like electricity or fire. But it's not us, right? Even though may see things like Avatar, movie Avatar, where you yourself go into Awa, into the energy, then you come out, you yourself again, right? That's the hope of incarnation. You turn into energy and you come back, you're still yourself. Right? So, and energy doesn't seem to work that way, right? The self disappears when you go into that energy. Okay, if self is energy, it's going to lose its individuality. But if it's a soul, that's different. Okay, if it's a person, that's different. Okay, so what possibilities have been offered to us by religion as regards life after death? What about Hinduism? Well, it offers us reincarnation. And what is reincarnation? It's a cycle. Okay, it's like your soul gets out from this body because it does not have any special relationship with this particular body. Then it has to enter into another body. Okay, and this is going to be repeated over and over again until it releases itself by its perfection. Okay, moksha. So when it becomes very perfect is the time that it releases itself and it's no longer jailed in a body. And it enters into nirvana. What that is, well, who knows, right? So it's a state of perfection. Okay, because there's no personal God on that side, right? You're not going to be talking with someone or enjoying your life with someone. So incarnation is just repeating one life after the other. Just like if I give you a quiz and say, okay, you can answer it, and then you will see which questions were wrong and which were right. Then I ask you to take it again, right? Take it again, and then you see whether you made perfect in the second try. If not yet, you take it again, and then finally you get 10 out of 10 in the third try. That's like reincarnation, right? So you just pass the quiz perfectly on the third try. Doesn't say what happens afterwards, right? Buddhism also believes in reincarnation, and most probably because it came from Hinduism, right? Buddha was a Hindu before he became Buddhist. Okay, and besides, what Buddhism is trying to emphasize on is the escape from suffering and entering into that enlightened state, right? The truth is that it's quite centered around our life here on earth. Okay, even though it talks about relationship with transcendent life, etc. But all these things are happening right now. That's what we're trying to achieve right now. So Buddhism is like that. So if you have the first two, which talk about reincarnation in as regards life after death. Then you have Judaism, okay, which is we could call the first monotheistic. Yeah, I mean there are other monotheistic religions, but this one seems to have a perfect personal God on the other side of the spectrum. Okay, so Judaism, what happens to us after we die? Even though there is good karma and bad karma in Hinduism and Buddhism, but bad karma is like a temporary state, just sends you to another body so that you can get rid of it, get rid of the bad karma, and hopefully enter into moksha. Okay, that's it. But it's different from Judaism. You have only one chance. You have to be good during this lifetime. Okay, and there is eternal retribution, right? So there is punishment in hell, and there is joy and peace in heaven. Okay, although there are several sects in Judaism, and some of them don't even believe in life after death. But anyway, um, the teachings that are found in the Old Testament seem to lead to that. Okay, now what followed Judaism, Catholicism, right? Christianity. That also is eternal retribution. So both the Catholics and the Protestants believe in the same thing, that there is a heaven for those souls that have been good and a hell for those who have not been good. Okay, so um, there's more explanation to that in Catholicism, but okay, we won't go into that right now. Islam, also eternal retribution. more or less the same concept, even though probably the details of the commandments that have to be obeyed may be different. But in Islam, if you are a good Muslim, you will enter into the reward. You will go into heaven. And if you were a bad Muslim or not a Muslim at all, therefore you will go to hell. Okay? You will be punished for that, for not being a good Muslim. Okay, then atheism. Well, what is life after death in atheism? Nothing. There's nothing after death. You are just annihilated, as we were saying. There's nothing else. Don't expect anything else. That's the reason why the atheists usually try to get the greatest pleasure that they can get and advantage all the good things, quote unquote, that they can get from this life because they think that there's nothing else afterwards. So what for? You better enjoy this life. It's the only thing that you have right now. Okay, so better enjoy this life. So those things that sometimes the very religious people don't like, they enter into it because they're pleasurable. They're good for their bodies. Okay? Because there's nothing else. There's only body. There's no soul, according to atheism. Okay, then you have New Age. And New Age, as we were saying earlier, is the movement of energy, like a cycle of energy, similar to Hinduism and Buddhism. But you are not reincarnated necessarily into a body. You're moving through this great stream of energy that is in the entire universe and cycle of energy that is in the entire universe. You can be a self, you can be a non-self, or whatever. Therefore, when you die, you join yourself to that big stream of energy that is going out through the entire universe. And if you have been harmonious with that stream of energy, you're going to be end up quite well, very harmonious with the rest of the energy, right? But if you, I don't know, if you, I don't know really if there's anything bad about New Age. I mean, if there's anything you could do in order to destroy yourself, you'd end up energy anyway afterwards. Okay, so but anyway, that's what happens after death. You become energy and you unite yourself to the universal energy of the world. So reincarnation, as we said, death is just a phase, something we have to go through, but he does not annihilate us. The soul is immortal, except that the individuality is not immortal. So you could lose your individuality when you go into nirvana, right? No need to worry excessively about death anyway. We will have many more chances afterwards. Okay, so if I tell you, you can keep on changing your answers to the quizzes until you get it correct, you will not worry because the only thing that you have to do is keep on doing it until it comes out 10 out of 10. And everybody, absolutely everybody, is going to get 10 out of 10. Some people will get it earlier after the first try or the second try, and some people will get it later after the 100th try or the 230th try, whatever. Okay, but we must aim to get out of the cycle of reincarnation. So if you believe in reincarnation after death, okay, um, that's your task. You have to get out of that cycle in order to enter into nirvana. What about eternal retribution? So we had the first choice, which was reincarnation. Now the second choice, which is eternal retribution. Why is there? Why did they ever think of that? That doesn't sound so nice, especially the hell part, right? Can you believe in that hell part? Now, why do people believe in eternal retribution? Why do they accept it when it is taught by a religion? Because we realize that in this world there is no perfect justice. What do we mean by there is no perfect justice in this world? We mean that there are good people who suffer in this world. And that's so apparent to us right now that we are in a pandemic. Um, there are good people who suffer, and there are bad people who enjoy this life a lot. Life seems to be rewarding them with so many wonderful things that the good people don't have. Okay? Well, good things also happen to good people, and bad things also happen to bad people, which means that it's not perfect. So, and then you ask yourself, so why do I have to be good if I'm not going to be receiving good things in this world, right? What's the what's the use of being good or bad, or choosing to be good rather than bad in this world? So, this is the answer, because all your bad things will be punished after you die. I mean, that's the thing that you have to pay attention to. That's what eternal retribution is saying. Pay attention to that, because that is forever and ever. Amen. Well, the things in this life, they may change. So one day you have a good day, the next day you have a bad day, etc. So this changes while you're still alive and still on earth. But once you end this life and you enter into eternal life, into eternity, that's forever. So if you entered good, you will be good forever and you will be very happy forever. But if you entered into eternal life bad, well, you're going to be suffering forever and ever. Amen. Okay, that's eternal retribution. But what happens? Justice is perfect. So suddenly you find all your reason to do good things. Because I have to be good so that I can receive perfect justice. Because of perfect justice, we only have one lifetime to prove ourselves worthy. Okay, no second chance. Because of perfect justice, there is reward or punishment after this life. Okay, so that is what eternal retribution is all about. What about death as annihilation? That is atheism. Annihilation means disappearing, completely zero, nothing. No need to worry about life after death, because there is no life after death. We have to enjoy this life now, because we will have no other life later. No need to worry about sin, because there's no such thing. And if there is, it has no consequences. You're not going to be punished anyway after this life, because there's no life after this one. Okay? So it becomes irrelevant, being good or being bad. Return to our source. This is more or less what happens to New Age. We are nothing but recycled energy, right? There is no need to worry about sin, because the things of human life are a matter of good, not a matter of good works or sin, but rather harmony or lack of harmony. So what you have to achieve is harmony with the energy system of the world. We must live this life as harmoniously as possible if we want to be happy. Okay, so I think that's it. Do you believe? Because as I said, science and philosophy cannot give you the answers of what's going to happen after this life. And now you have religion coming in. And what are you going to do? Well, you're going to test those things being offered by religion, and you're going to say, well, this is the one that I think is most believable. That's like what Socrates did. This is the one that fits into all the truths and the facts that I have found in this life. So that is what our task is. And I hope that you have learned something and you can meditate on these things, think about it well, think deeply about the things of the afterlife. And if you have any questions, just send them to the lecturer. Thank you.